All hail Biafra. This is Biafra Liberation Army Network coming to you again. Please like, share, and comment.
Mazi Nnamdi Kanu puts zoo government in tight corner in a big twist on his case as Hunter finally becomes the hunted. Here the news in details. Dear friends and lovers of freedom, I want you to pay very good attention to this very news, as we will be discussing different topics this very moment, because a lot of things have happened already and a lot are currently going on around the Zoological Republic of Animal Kingdom, Nigeria, and of course, most importantly, around the case of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. So without further ado, let us see the very first one, which you can see on your screen. This is latest development. According to the information from Vanguard News, this is their headline. They said, court fixes Friday for Nnamdi Kanu to open defense to federal government terrorism charge. It is no longer any news that today, being the 23rd of October 2025, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in an open court withdrew all his legal team and decided to defend himself by himself. And he equally told the court, eyeball to eyeball, he told Justice James Omotosho that your court does not have any jurisdiction to try him, which we have already talked about it on our previous broadcast. Now, even upon that, to show you how ignorant they are and shameless, how shameless the zoo judges and courts are, upon that, he still fixed a date for Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to open his defense. You understand? That is to show you how ignorant they are. So we are going to read this in details, and then I'll begin to show you other topics, very, very important, information coming from Abuja and the across Zoological Republic of Animal Kingdom, Nigeria. So without further ado, let's read in details. Abuja. The Federal High Court in Abuja has slated Friday for the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, to open his defense to the 7-count terrorism-related charge the federal government of the zoo entered against him. The case was adjourned to enable Kanu, who had earlier sacked his legal team, to prepare to personally represent himself during his defense proceedings. Remember what I told you, that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is very, very firm in his conviction that there is no judge in the zoo will stand to try him, because that judge will be committing an act of terrorism. He made it very clear, very open. Even the journalists that do not know anything about Nigerian law asked him, section what, sir? We'll be playing that video at the end of this broadcast, although we have already played it on our previous broadcast today. Some ignorant journalists who do not even know anything about the zoo law asked him, what section, sir? What section in the constitution or in any law in the zoo? Mazi Nnamdi Kanu equally, that man is very intelligent. How he cram all these things, I don't know. It baffles me. I've not seen a man with so much knowledge and intelligence like Mazi Nnamdi Kanu before in my whole life. I swear, I've never seen. How he crams these things is what I don't know. I can't even, my own intelligence did not even reach 1/4 of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's intelligence. 1/4. So he gave them the section immediately off head without looking at any paper. On Akuchi, everybody. And everybody was silent. Everywhere was completely silent. Nobody could speak again, because evidences abound. When you are dealing with an intelligent man, this is exactly what you get. He silences you with evidences and a superior argument. Now, a former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Kanu Agabi-san, who hitherto led the defendant's legal team, had at the resumed proceeding on Thursday announced his withdrawal from the case. Agabi-san disclosed that the IPOB leader, who has elected to defend himself, took the case file from him and other senior lawyers who were part of his team. Following Kanu's confirmation of the development, trial judge Justice James Omotosho ordered every lawyer that previously announced appearance for the defendant in the case to vacate the courtroom. He only allowed the sons to remain in the court. With the lawyer's exit, the trial judge ordered Kanu to proceed with his defense. In his first submission as his own lawyer, Kanu challenged the jurisdiction of the court to continue his trial, even though the embattled IPOB leader was overruled by Justice Omotosho, who insisted he must open his defense. It took a quick intervention by one of the sons, Dr. Onyechi Ikpeazu, to persuade the court to adjourn the proceeding till Friday. Dr. Ikpeazu drew the attention of the court to the fact that the withdrawal of the former defense lawyers took effect on Thursday morning. He therefore pleaded for the defendant to be granted a short time to gather his thoughts and compose himself for the task ahead. The request was not opposed by the federal government team of prosecutors led by Adeboyega Awomolo-san. It will be recalled that Kanu, who has been in detention since 2021, had in a fresh motion he personally signed and filed before the court named several individuals that included serving governors, ministers, ex-governors, and security chiefs among the 23 persons he intended to produce as his witnesses, describing them as vital and compelled witnesses in his case. Kanu urged the court to grant him a 90-day period to enable him to open and conclude his defense. He argued that expanding the initial 6-day period the court gave him to conclude his defense has become necessary in view of the number and status of the witnesses he intends to produce to give evidence in the case. Among the proposed witnesses in the principal list he submitted before the court included the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodimma, that of Lagos, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Nyesom Wike, the immediate past Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, as well as a former Chief of Army Staff, General Tukur Buratai, retired. Others are the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, the immediate past governor of Abia State, Okezie Ikpeazu, a former Minister of Defense, General Theophilus Danjuma, retired, the immediate past Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, Ahmed Rufai Abubakar, as well as the former Director General of the Department of State Services, DSS, Yusuf Bichi. So, these people, I'm going to explain a lot here. Kanu, in the motion dated October 21 and marked FSC/ABJ/CR/383/2015, equally hinted that he would call other persons whose names were not on the list he submitted. I guess that one of the names that he should be calling moving forward, which the name is not here, is the former governor of Anambra State, Ikwi Willie Obiano. He must be there. Oh yes, he has to be there. Including the former governor of Enugu State. I usually forget his name. His name should be there because of the massacre that took place in Emene. So that very governor, former governor of Enugu State, must be there. Now, he wants the court to issue a subpoena summons to compel the attendance of all the proposed witnesses whose evidence, he said, will establish his innocence of the charge against him. Now, let me show you other news. We are going to, analyze this. But before then, let me show you other information. This one is coming from also Vanguard, which says, Nnamdi Kanu list Malami, Wike, Umahi, Sanwo-Olu, Danjuma, Buratai, others as witnesses. They are 23-man list. Right? Now, we all know the activities of Malami. We know what Malami did when Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped in Kenya. Malami was the former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice. Right? And Malami is the one who announced the rendition of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to the zoo. He announced it on a national television. We watched it on Channels TV and others. So, for Malami, who made that very announcement, for him to know how and where Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped and renditioned to the zoo, he has a big role to play. He has a very big question to answer. Are you paying attention? So it is very, very imperative that Malami appears before the court to tell the court and the whole world truly where, because during that his announcement in 2021, he did not tell us where they kidnapped Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. He said he has been arrested with the help of Interpol. With the help of Interpol. But we saw the chairman of Interpol in Africa making it very, very clear that Interpol had nothing to do with the kidnap of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. He said it on a national television, on an interview. We shared it, it went viral. Why the Interpol had to remove themselves from this matter is because the Interpol knew that Nigerian government has committed an international criminal offense. And you cannot commit such international criminal offense and then trying to drag Interpol into your crime. That's why Interpol did everything they could to remove themselves from that very case. You understand? So Malami has to come and tell us, how did you extract Mazi Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya? If he tells us this, they will begin to establish the facts. Now Wike is there. Of course, Wike has to come and tell us what happened to our people in Obibo prior to the launching of the Eastern Security Network on 12th December 2020. The Obibo massacre that took place in 2020, Wike has a lot to answer. So he has a vital role to play in all this. Now, when you talk of Dave Umahi has to come and tell us what happened between Eastern Security Network and Ebubago, the launch of Ebubago. You understand? Dave Umahi has to come and tell us what Ebubago did to our people, both in Ebonyi State and the entire Igbo land, which we all have the evidences, we have the videos, and is everywhere. So Dave Umahi has a lot to answer. The launching of Ebubago and the terrorist activities of Ebubago, both in Ebonyi State and the entire Igbo land. So he has a lot to answer, including the massacre of our people in Ebonyi during the NSAS protest. You understand? So he has a lot to answer. Now, Sanwo-Olu, some of you may wonder, Sanwo-Olu is a Yoruba man. What does he have to do here? Yes, he has a lot to do. Remember that the case, one of the charges that they are trying Mazi Nnamdi Kanu for is NSAS protest, where they said that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu masterminded NSAS. He organized and led NSAS. He was in United Kingdom, remember. So Sanwo-Olu has to come and tell us about what happened in NSAS. How he has to tell us about the report, because a panel was set up and the assignment was to, go and make investigation of everything that has to do with NSAS. And when they came up with the result, the name of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was not mentioned there. There is no any attachment with the panel's result, their investigation and everything. It has absolutely nothing to do with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu or IPOB. So Sanwo-Olu has a lot to do in this matter, so long as they are attaching NSAS protest with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Now, Danjuma has a lot to do. We have seen two good videos from T.Y. Danjuma when he told us to defend ourselves. You all know it. So he has to be a witness that him, as a former military general, or should I say chief of army staff during his days, using his own mouth to tell the entire Zoological Republic of Animal Kingdom to go and defend themselves. Is it now a crime for one to defend himself? So T.Y. Danjuma has a lot to say here. Now Buratai, the bloodsucker. This is the man who murdered thousands of Igbo youths under Operation Python Dance. Buratai, Chukuru Buratai, was the chief of army staff of the zoo under Operation Python Dance. So Buratai has a lot of, in fact, the blood of thousands of Igbo youths is in the hands of Buratai. So he has a lot to answer here. Buratai must appear. As a matter of urgency, Buratai must appear in the court because he has so much witness to give in this very case. Now, others. When you talk about others, Hope Uzodinma is there. You have heard them talking about Gulag. Gulag came to see Hope Uzodinma before he was murdered. And they want to attribute that very case to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. So Hope Uzodinma has to come and answer to tell us not only the massacre that is going on in Imo State, but also the death of Gulag. Hope Uzodinma has a lot to answer. So there are so many things. Now, moving forward, out of this very place, let me show you the latest development concerning Omoyele Sowore. Sowore's arrest. Tinubu's government must end disregard for rule of law. Amnesty International. So Amnesty International has issued a statement over the arrest of Omoyele Sowore, which they are urging the government of Tinubu to end disregard for rule of law. I don't know if they said anything when Barrister Loye Jimako and 12 others were arrested on Monday. I don't know if Amnesty International said anything, but I think they said something, even though I did not check them out. Now they have said something about the arrest of Omoyele Sowore. There's no need of going deep in in reading the information because of time. Now let's move from here. Now this one is from Sahara Reporters. Police say Sowore arrested over #Free Nnamdi Kanu Now protest. Lawyer Temoku said that police has told him that the reason why they arrested Omoyele Sowore is because of Free Nnamdi Kanu Now protest, which I have already said that this one is now North versus South. So every Yoruba person must open their eyes to see. Igbo man is not your problem. The problem is now between the North and South. Which Yoruba is in the South and Igbo is also in the South. So use your tongue and count your teeth.